Welcome to Pirate Cooks, restaurant recipes pirated at home. Crab Rangoon is a real favorite among appetizers. While the use of real crab in these probably left your local takeout spot many dollars ago, there's nothing wrong with changing it up and making it your own. If you do use real crab, half the amount. We're going heavy here because the imitation stuff is cheap. Here we're going for a copy of what you would get with your takeout. So first we'll mix our filling. Start with 8 ounces of cream cheese, a teaspoon of minced garlic that I'll remember off camera, a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, a teaspoon of soy sauce, and then 1 teaspoon of sugar. The addition of sugar tends to be the one thing home cooks leave out, but it's there to exaggerate the sweetness of the crab meat. It's also the reason I'm omitting scallions. You can add 2 finely chopped scallions if that's your preference, but for me, we're trying to get the sweet, meaty flavor of crab. I'm not going to offset it too much with onion. To each their own, but sometimes simpler is better. Here we have 8 ounces of imitation lump crab meat. Now we chop this up a little with our spatula and toss it in the food processor. Why the food processor and not the mixer? Well, the mixer would work to break up the crab meat, but the end product is too loose, too many air pockets, and when you're frying something wrapped, too much air will expand and pop open your wrapper. All done here, so on to assembly. With most recipes, I would scale back to make more of a home serving size, but this is an exception. Not only is it a pain to size down the filling ingredients, but I'm going to suggest you forgo a lot of annoyance and just spring a couple bucks for a pack of wonton wraps instead of making them yourself. They usually come in a pack of 48, and they're not terribly suitable to save for something else once you've opened them. They just dry out too quick. But that's fine. Once these are made, they freeze nicely for frying later. Your local takeout spot probably just folds these over and calls it a day. You can do that. There are about 100 things people make with wontons, and each seems to have its own fancy fold. And if you're so inclined, here's the one for Crab Rangoon. First, we mix a tablespoon of cornstarch and 2 tablespoons of cold water. You could use water, but starch goes a long way to help hold this together. Put down a teaspoon of filling, and if you have a 1/3 of an ounce dish scoop that no one's made off with, that'll work perfect. Or just do it this way. Now brush opposing sides of the wonton. You can use your finger if you don't have a tiny pastry brush like this. Now bring up the corners and work your way down, sealing them together. Try to push all the air out as you go. Work in batches, only pulling out as many wontons as you can finish in a couple of minutes. Cover the rest with a damp towel. Yes, they do dry out that quick. I'm setting these finished ones on a sheet pan lined with parchment. Do use parchment if you're making these all at once. You don't want them to stick to something and rip open when you try to pick them up. Now we turn to frying. Again, work in batches, just a handful at a time, less if you're doing frozen ones. The reason here is we don't want to lower the temperature of the oil. Steam coming off of these will keep the oil from penetrating into the food. That only works if we can hold the temperature to give us that light, clean fry. Now these float almost instantly. They're lying to you. That does not mean they're done. Give it a little time to brown up the wontons and then pull them. And that looks good. Set them aside on a wire rack until you're ready to serve. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep up with the channel. I'll be changing the release dates to Monday and Thursdays from here out. Thursday's recipe will be Cinnabuns. No, not that one, the real recipe. So come back and check it out.